is, and it's so annoying. Should have done him for the first one.
Baron Harkonnen having like his little party balloon, he's like floating around like Pennywise. I thought that was very funny.
Wow, the sun is really bearing down on this camera right now. It's crazy that now I gotta go work like a normal person, even though we're so close to the weekend. And I'm clocking out early for Dune. Wait, I gotta show my nails. Hold that. In prep, I did Dune nails. Look at those. They're so cool. I even wrote the little... This is my favorite.
It's crazy. She's a mastermind of genius.
But this morning, dude literally says, I've already cried once a little.
I didn't say cried, I said teared up. First of all, very big difference.
Teared up thinking about Dune Part 1.
Just the opening, the who will be our next oppressors line just hits. It hits. It's so good. Also, you know, people are saying that Dune Part 2 is better than the first one.
Oh.
Yeah. I could actually see that because
there's more meat.
Yeah, well, the first one is very much the preparation.
That's fine.
You know, the first one is very much like the unveiling of a new green egg grill or something, you know? But now we're cooking.
That took a while to get there, but we're
much
here.
Much like the plot of Dune. I mean, shit, it's 112 pages until the Atreides are wiped out pretty much, so...
Okay,
yeah, it takes a while.
Excited to watch after all of this prefacing.
Oh yeah.
So close.
So excited.
It's coming up.
I'm humming this, I'm singing the theme song.
He is, and it's so annoying.
Ultimately, the feints within feint strategy can grow faint rather quickly when it just keeps being the thing that happens. It does become predictable that there will be another feint. It's hard. I still have the Dune goggles on.
You do, but that's okay because you're a fan.
I am.
So we just got done watching Dune Part 2.
Still is a very solid one thumb up. The other one, I don't know, it's a little cold out.
I'm so disappointed. I feel so sad that I did my nails for this movie.
No, don't say that, no.
Should have done them for the first one,
yeah,
but...
That is true.
Damn, this was such a letdown. Ugh. And I'm so mad because I was excited about it for no reason. Like,
I cried this morning waiting for this movie.
I know, and now we're crying out of sadness, not joy.
I don't know.
Anyway, we're gonna go to dinner and not think about this, or maybe think about this a lot more. We'll see.
Hey guys, welcome to my Dune 2 vlog. Dune Part 2.
That's such a trite intro, sir.
I tried.
I turn in the right button.
Does the good product turn on? Oh.
So now that we've had 24 hours to process Dune Part 2, I just wanted to give some closing thoughts. Let's jump right in. I think one of the main reasons that I was disappointed was the female characters just felt almost irrelevant to the story in a way. They were one-dimensional, much like the other non-female characters. So all in all, I think the one-dimensionality of the characters bothered me a lot.
Yeah, this was something that we spoke about a lot after the movie. As someone who read the Dune series, I can't really argue against it. I mean, frankly, I think Villeneuve did an incredible job with the source material, with what he had. Compared to the novel version, Chani is so much more fleshed out.
Yeah, so see, I didn't know the books themselves were so flat in a way.
Yeah.
And hearing that kind of like makes sense now.
That's why it works on paper. I think what they did actually was a perfect way to co-opt your criticism, or at least show some self-awareness, because Chani is almost really rebelling against her own character. She's also rebelling against Paul's arc that she is powerless to stop. Her anger, her rage, her frustration, which I don't recall at all really being in the novel, And the fact that she is so much more defined in the face of Paul walking his path, because there is none of that. Chani is missing. Chani leaves at the end with, spoiler alert, the wedding negotiation. She's off on her own again. You know, that doesn't happen, but it's an important step, I think, for...
That doesn't happen in the book?
Not even remotely, no. The novel ends right after Paul takes Princess Irulan's hand, and the Lady Jessica talks about how, it's women like us who get to tell history.
Oh,
yeah, there's a lot.
Listen, especially hard.
In the context of the novel, that does also kind of fit, because Princess Irulan was the one who wrote a lot of the pre-chapter kind of transcripts. It did also flesh out the princess's character much more that way, because it was something that only she did. It really takes the second book for Princess Irulan to have any kind of dimension at all, besides just being everyone's pawn. So it's fair, your criticism, 100%.
Yeah, like I don't mind women being used as pawns in the plot if it's necessary or whatever, but even pawns, if they're people, have facets that are not just their one main purpose to serve the protagonist. Also, moving off of the female character dimensionality, what was Fade Rotha?
He's evil.
That's his thing. He's evil. That's it.
He's evil, and he's going to be the next Baron.
I was hoping for more. I was really hoping that they...
He's just literally just evil. The Baron also is evil. Honestly,
the Bene Gesserit scheming.
The Bene Gesserit
You can basically define every character or every sect of characters with one word.
But the Bene Gesserit are also just so dope, you know? I mean, they're horrible. They're horrible. They're retro neo-fascists, you know? Because it's like retrofuturism, but they're also like neo in a sense, because they're bringing a new world order in, or trying to. And they're also like totally proficient in all these kinds of martial arts and bodily control. And, you know, these are ideas, the bodily control and that autonomy and them all giving themselves up. These are ideas that work in a greater scheme. But that's lost also.
Yeah, that was my thing. First movie did such an incredible job. Now, I know people didn't like the first movie as much as the second for some reason. But I loved the first one because it built the world, and it gave every character such a good platform to build their story.
They had their moments.
It never got built.
I love Dune. I've read Dune at least 5 times, 4 to 5 at the very least. And, you know, the first 100 pages, the first part 1 and part 2 of Dune are it's almost always like reading it for the first time, where so much of that logic is introduced and so much of it begins to click, and you start to see everything really fall in place. But then the things have fallen in place, and then it keeps going.
How many books is it?
Like 7 or 8.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But what we're reading now, what we're watching now as a film trilogy is the first 2 Dune books.
Okay, I understand the impetus to say that the second movie was less world building, so it was going to be slower, or...
I mean, Across the Spider-Verse is probably better than Shrek 2, and as far as sequels go.
In a sense. But that's the thing I was saying, right?
Dare I say.
I'm thinking Hunger Games. I'm thinking Harry Potter. Those 2 are the first things that come to mind, because I loved what they did both with the books and the movies.
Right.
I don't want to make this statement, because J.K. Rowling is not a great reference here.
Only said it 15 years ago.
Yeah, she has ruined a lot of things for a lot of people, but having said that, I think the work still stands. And Susan Collins, of course, has been involved with the movies, so that's probably another reason that the movies are so well fleshed out and so good at staying true to the book, but also being interesting in their own regard. And I guess that was the thing that stuck out to me also about Part 2 Dune, is that I understand they were going off of the adaptation route, but it lacked the soul. The first one was
the first one definitely
gripping and with it the whole time. I was following it, you know, like a pin drop silence. I was there. In the second one, anything could be happening on screen, and I was kind of like, okay, cool, chill.
It didn't necessarily resonate as much. I think it really did mimic reading the novel. It's always so engaging. Everything is so thought-provoking. And then it just is about ending the story. And
like getting to point B.
Yes. Baron Harkonnen is incredible in the beginning because he's a scheming mastermind who does come across as a complete menace until he meets the Emperor. And then he's just like almost irrelevant. I loved watching part 2, but for different reasons. I was happy more so with the details of the world itself because that was still what kept me engaged, a lot less so than the story.
I agree, yeah. The plot kind of felt really flat and meh, but the details were really, really nice. And I think that's kind of the ideas man concept that you mentioned. Frank Herbert just came up with a bunch of really cool things and cool ways to relate to this world and to coincide with our ideas of industrialization, capitalism, all of that stuff. But the journey to get to those ideas or get from one idea to the next, the journey just kind of felt like an outline.
It's funny, actually, as we were talking about this, I remembered the meme that I sent you earlier today. Frank Herbert spent years writing and revising this, and he spent even more years researching. It kind of feels at times like someone's rehearsed stand-up set transitioning into improv roasting or something, or like trying to go from something that you know, like all the research that goes into the world building, which is very airtight, to then moving away from the logic or the data or the science.
And then actually doing the craft of it. Yeah.
And
yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yes, and again, those big ideas are there. I think Dune as a series isn't the first to have this formulaic model where you do have, much like enzymes and substrates, these kinds of single function catalysts that progress reaction, that lead to something that builds up and changes over time, and then you're left with this final product. But this book is not just a chemistry equation, fairly common for science fiction as a genre. The characters are the rails, right? The railings for this story. The story is an exploration of the world that is being created.
If we're saying the characters are rails for the story and the plot to get pushed forward, the plot didn't really get pushed forward either. Like
in terms of part 2, because the
first part had so much movement towards something else happening.
Sure.
And part 2 was just kind of like, oh, we know this thing is coming.
They were very on the nose with that.
And then it's just building up scene after scene. Like, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, and then it happens, and you're like, okay, it happened.
I won't lie, Paul really does spend a lot of his time running away from destiny.
And then suddenly he's like, oh, Destiny's mine. One drink of the warm liquid, and he's like, Destiny, I'm here.
I will say, I'm glad you brought this up. I was very disappointed with the depiction of the spice transposition scene. I was very disappointed with how there was nothing really for when Lady Jessica drank the water of life, and there was nothing besides the reveal that Anya Taylor-Joy is going to be in the next movie. There was nothing for Paul, really, besides what looked like an Edward Hopper painting of a desert meeting the sands. I wanted more. I mean, for crying out loud,
that was the most important shift in the storyline, and we got.
I wanted something from the Discover Channel. I wanted Carl Sagan to come out of his grave and be like, "Hot damn, that's good," you know. I wanted like a glitchy sort of. I wanted motion sickness. I wanted something that made me like. And this is honestly something where I gotta say, David Lynch did it better. I'll say it. David Lynch did the space scenes, the space transport. He did dream sequences better.
I mean, it is David Lynch.
That's very true. But still.
Twin Peaks, if that was anything to go off of.
Oh, I love Twin Peaks. But it just felt like a very lost opportunity.
I was wondering if the movie was gonna be kind of flat. Around the time when Rebecca Ferguson's character, Lady Jessica, I suppose, was on screen, and she had this, like, evil look.
Yeah.
All of the mothering spirit that she'd shown in the first movie was gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was nothing. Like, from the beginning of this movie, she was evil Bene Gesserit.
But she was actually very torn in the first film. She disobeyed the Bene Gesserit in having Paul. That was an act of defiance.
So she defied them, and then to see that from the very beginning of the second movie that she was non-defiant at all and she was like completely bought into the cause was a little weird to me. It was disorienting because I was expecting the same kind of turmoil, the inner conflict or the conflict with external factors. I was expecting some kind of clash because she had they had portrayed her to be this walking the line between the two
of faith and duty.
Yeah.
Love and duty, however you want to split
I don't know where it went wrong. Maybe it was that the book itself didn't have what it needed to be converted to screenplay. I think in terms of technical elements, it is so superior. The action sequences, the sci-fi sequences, sound was disappointing in the second one, I'm gonna be honest. The first one was so incredibly well sound designed. Second one, I just felt like the sound was not pulling me in the same way. It was kind of just sitting on top like a sad moisturizer on your skin, like it doesn't sink in. But again, maybe that's nitpicking. I don't know. Not everyone's watching the movie for the sound.
I will say one funny thing though. Baron Harkonnen having like his little party balloon like things next to him the whole time, like he's like floating around like Pennywise. I thought that was very funny. They
did try to add humor into this movie, which was also interesting, and it worked.
So what comes next, I fear, could be an identity crisis in a literal sense because of how things play out in Dune Messiah, but also an identity crisis for the films because what comes next is uncharted. There's never been a follow-up to Dune, the first novel. There's never been a lead-up to another Dune film, let alone a third Dune film. I am obviously here for it. I will obviously be watching Dune Part 2 when it comes out in theaters.
Part 3?
No, 2 weeks before Dune Part 3 comes out. Hopefully with you, but I understand if...
I'll be there. I'm not as excited and I won't be looking forward to it as much because if this is the way that Part 3 is gonna go, I'm not a big fan of collusion and scheming plots, because they're...
Feints within feints, baby!
They're just kind of like, oh, this is inevitable. It's gonna happen.
Who says I am inevitable? Oh, Thanos. Josh Brolin. Oh, now there's a crossover.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, I'll be honest, the vamp scheming woman trope, little played out. Most of these tropes, little played out.
Yeah.
And
they are. But it's different when it's in space.
If you say
in
so. Space. This is more entertaining than the movie was for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No,
I know I'm going a little hard in the paint on the criticism, but I just feel like it had so much potential, and you only really criticize things harshly when you expect so much from them. Yes. And maybe that was also my fault. I went in expecting a lot.
Like my overbearing father says, we only criticize the ones we love.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. My dad never said that. Frank Herbert is guilty, as many writers are, of just continuing these ideas to his own fancy because he thought they were important. But on that note, I want to say one more thing. I think we are overdue now for a review of Orson Scott Card's Ender series. And I say this for a few reasons. Ender's Game was good, maybe, but Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind have all of the materials. It's a perfect recipe. Although, much like Frank Herbert, Orson Scott Card really does indulge a little too much at times in his own ideas. I think that would be the next best science fiction universe to bring to life as a hard science fiction adaptation, especially since that actor who played Ender has been in a lot of good stuff recently, and him reprising his role as Ender, I would love it if in the next 5 years something like that came out.
That's really cool. I need to read that.
Oh, that's right. Did I move it? Oh, yeah. I moved it. It was only sitting there tanning better than me for the better part of 6 months.
I'll get to it.
Uh-huh.
I will get to it.
I know you will.
Especially knowing that the follow-up books are better than the opening book. After this situation, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, the Ender series is like the opposite of the Dune series, or arguably like the first book is the book for Dune. The Ender series, I've always said, Speaker for the Dead
Hey, closing thoughts from me. Watch it.
Watch it.
Decide what you feel. Most people on Letterboxd are in love with this movie. It has a 4.6. Nothing on Letterboxd gets a 4.6.
Really?
People really, really are like having a moment with it.
It's amazing. No?
It's too late for you.
Ah, man.
No, that was really good.
Thanks.
I wish score had been more important in the second one too. If we keep going, I'm just gonna keep finding new interesting ways to not like this movie. So we're just gonna call it a night and hope that this was entertaining.
Yeah.
And not flat.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks
See you
for
in the next
watching.
one.